Okay, good morning, everyone. I'm going to start right at 10. My name is Greg Pack. I'm a community activist and consider myself a community development specialist, but I'm also on the board of the Heart of Willoughby. The Heart of Willoughby is the one who sponsors the farmers market every Saturday, and with that money we shovel the sidewalk in downtown Willoughby every winter, and we put on the Last Stop Willoughby parade event. So we're a very civic-oriented group. And we welcome doing this in partnership with the Willoughby Eastlake Library so that we all learn something. Thank you all for coming. I have to say two things. When you're sitting up at that table and you're running for office and you go before a crowd, it's tough. The fact that doing that is a very, very honorable thing. The same thing goes for you. I'm a hot-blooded Italian, very passionate, and I think passion that you have, and you're raising your hand and you're showing up here on a Saturday morning. You could be sleeping, whatever. Speaking of that, we have plenty of donuts and water, and Maureen doesn't want to take all those donuts back, so please help us out there. We are broadcasting live on Facebook, I understand. So, and the event will be recorded so that you can look at it again, and it'll be on the Willoughby Library's YouTube site. We called this a debate in the beginning because we kind of put this together quickly. It really isn't going to be a debate. It's going to be a job interview. I've interviewed probably over 200 people for jobs in my lifetime. And so we're just going to ask questions of everybody because they're in essence applying for a job. And you're going to be the ones that decide whether they get it as a voter. So every question will be presented to every candidate, and they'll have 2 minutes to answer. So as a result of that, we only have 90 minutes. I've got a lot of questions. I solicited questions off of Facebook and a number. I got over 80 questions, and I had to distill that down. I picked which ones we're doing. No one has seen this list, not even my wife. So it'll be new to everybody. Now there are two questions that originally I asked not to do. I'm sure you all know what that is. The topic of masks and CRT. I felt that those are topics that would have taken a lot of time, and there's so many other good things that hopefully we can get out of this conversation. But as the masses ruled, those are going to be the last two questions we asked. Now, I did send to the candidates general topics that it's going to cover. They asked for the questions. I said, no, that's half the fun. But I did general topics. So you'll see one of these responses in general topics. They did not see the questions. They do know about the last two questions about CRT and the mask. So that'll be the last thing we do. With each one, we only have an hour and a half. I have a lot of questions, but it's possible that you might have thought of something that I didn't. So please, Debbie, our editor over there, is going to raise your hand, and she'll give you a 3x5 card, and you're welcome to write the question down on there. She's going to go through them roughly in the first place and give you the ones that she felt might be worth considering. I can't promise you that it's going to get up, but you're welcome to please. And after the event, I believe all four of the candidates are going to hang around? Yes?
Yep. Okay,
good. So any questions that weren't answered, or you have specific questions for each candidate, you're more than welcome, because we still got lots of donuts. The same question we given to everybody in random order so that nobody is always first or last. We're going to ask for 2 minutes to respond to the question. Now Linda here, who was a teacher at one point, 5th grade maybe, very strict. She had a hook. It's under her chair. She will put up a green sign for when upside down, start, and a yellow sign when there's down to 30 seconds, and a red sign for when it's time up. So we're going to ask the questions. Maureen will give you the microphone. Please come up to the podium to answer because we have this mic for the Facebook. So we'll do it that way. But we'll try to keep it to the 2 minutes, really, if you can. So the schedule is going to be, I'm going to read the bios of all there were 8 candidates that filed for election. 2 of them, the 2 incumbents, Dr. Beal had a scheduling conflict, and Brian Jones never responded to our request, so they're not here. We had 6 that were going to be here today: Krista Bear, Aaron Reedy, Stacy Menser, and Chuck Ellis. The other 2, William Boxler and Nicholas Brown, William Boxler's family is sick. He not tested for COVID, positive, but he did not want to take a chance, so he decided not to come, and we respect him for that. The same with Nicholas Brown. His child was exposed to COVID at Edison, and he's following the protocol. The family is quarantined, so that's why they're not here. But again, I'm going to read their biography also. These biographies were on your chairs, and there's more here if you want to take it home or whatever. And I'm going to read a statement from Nicholas Brown about his absence, and a statement from Bill Boxler that kind of addresses the broad topics that I let them know about. Okay, do you guys have any questions? Good. All right, I'll do the biographies. I did them in alphabetical order by first name instead of last name. So Aaron with AA, he's right up there. It's like AAA window service. Aaron spent 20 years in the military, Marines, Army, and Air Force, retiring in 2010. He has 3 children in the Willoughby Eastlake School District, 1 at Edison Elementary and 2 at the School of Innovation. Aaron has a master's degree in social work from Cleveland State University and a 2nd master's degree in criminology from Kent State. He works full-time with the Department of Veteran Affairs as a clinical therapist and has a part-time job with the Cleveland Municipal Court Probation Department, working with domestic violence offenders. Previously, he has worked at the Department of Justice in the Antitrust Division, the United States Postal Service, and the Department of Defense, Finance and Accounting. Aaron began his higher education by studying business law while on active duty in the Marines. Education is a subject that is very important to his family, and he feels it is essential to the survival of our community. Although he knows our community is deeply divided on the issues around the mask mandates and critical race theory, Aaron believes we must never lose focus on providing the tools our children, school staff, and school administrators they need to help students become successful in their education. Nicholas Brown, who is not here today, Nicholas R. Brown. Nicholas is a husband, father, and attorney, combat veteran, and a U.S. Army officer with an MBA, and has experience working in dynamic environments. He and his wife Sarah have been married for 10 years. They reside in Willoughby, where they are raising their 3 children, Will, age 6, Parker, age 3, and Hunter, age 8 months. His son Will just began schools in the Willoughby Eastlake District at Edison. He and his wife are also proud parents to their 2 rescue dogs, Loki from Afghanistan and Lola from Fort Bragg. Nicholas is an attorney who represents municipalities and school districts along with the best interests of children. He is the legal advisor for the village of Geneva on the Lake. In addition, he is a captain in the U.S. Army Reserve Judge Advocate General Corporation. Prior to private practice, he was an assistant prosecutor with the Cuyahoga County Prosecutor's Office. Nicholas has a bachelor's degree in political science with a concentration in public policy from Kent State University. He attained his MBA from the Welch Management Institute while on active duty, and during his deployments, he then earned a law degree from Cleveland Marshall Law School. Nicholas has been trained at the Fort Benning as both an officer and a soldier, as well as the U.S. Army Airborne School. He was trained in the U.S. Army Special Operations Command, John F. Kennedy Special Warfare Center, and pursuing, influencing, and leading foreign populations in unconventional warfare. Most recently, he was trained as the Judge Advocate General Law Center and School in Charlottesville, Virginia, to advise commanders and lead soldiers in military legal issues. While on active duty with the U.S. Army Special Operations Command from 2009 to 2013, he was deployed twice to Afghanistan as part of the Operation Enduring Freedom for a total of 18 months. During his deployments, Nicholas worked with numerous non-governmental organizations, foreign and domestic, government officials, as well as local Afghan communities and their representatives. While in Afghanistan, he is embedded with the U.S. State Department. These may seem tedious at best, but sometimes we give opening statements to each of the candidates, and I wanted to save time for the questions. And if you're an employer hiring somebody, these are the first things that you see are their biographies, their curriculum vitae, and that's what you decide whether to go to the next step. I asked them to keep them under 300 words, which they all did. Chuck Ellis has been a resident of Eastlake since 1996. He currently holds an Associate of Applied Science degree in Paralegal Studies from a Bachelor of Science and a Bachelor of Science degree in Criminal Justice. Both degrees were earned from Bryant Stratton College in Eastlake. Chuck currently works as a security supervisor in addition to owning his own business. He has experience in accounting and budgeting. While in college, he tutored students in various subjects pertaining to the legal world, to the legal field. He was vice president of the Paralegal Society at Bryant Stratton College, and Chuck attended the various legal aid clinics assisting attorneys and clients with many legal problems. He completed an internship, excuse me, under the direction of attorney Sam Thomas. Chuck believes he is a hard worker and good problem solver. In addition, he feels he interacts with the public very well. Chuck would like to assure the residents who live in Willoughby Eastlake City School District that if elected to the school board, he will do his very best he can for students, parents, teachers of the district. Krista L. Bear, who's here today, is first and foremost a mother. Her 3 children attend Willoughby Eastlake City Schools at Royal View Elementary and the School of Innovation, and they cannot wait to be North Rangers. Sorry, Rebels. Ooh, okay. Krista believes that she is not your typical candidate. She comes to this position with a unique background and relevant experience that is not found in our current board. Krista is a degreed early childhood educator and has worked with children in a variety of settings since 2001. Children and education have and always will be her passion. She is 2 months away from completing her master's degree in adult education and development with a focus on organizational change and leadership development. She utilizes this education and serves as assistant vice president for the professional development for Dollar Bank. Krista has developed curriculums, facilitated learning for children and adults, and served as an administrator whose constant task was to care for community and children, teachers, and families through the decisions of the organization. She is a coach for Eastlake Soccer Association and loves every second of teaching children the value of teamwork and grit on the field. Krista is a small business owner. She and her husband have owned and operated their business since 2008, which has been primarily located in Lake County since 2014. She understands the demands of being a working parent in a diverse district and has the education and skills necessary to bring a renewed perspective to the governance of the Board of Education. The members of the board can only make decisions and ask questions from a perspective they have earned through experience. Her perspective is one of working parent, teacher, administrator, coach, business owner, and homeowner in the Willoughby Eastlake School District. She believes that Willoughby Eastlake schools are stronger when Willoughby Eastlake all have a voice. Krista believes that she can be the voice for that community. The second last one, Stacy Menser is here today. Stacy has been a homeowner in the district for 10 years and is married with 3 children attending school in Willoughby Eastlake School District. She is also an alumni of the district and graduated from Eastlake North High School. I'm sensing a pattern here. She has an Associate of Applied Business degree in Legal Studies from Lakeland Community College, a Bachelor's degree in Legal Studies, and a Master's degree in Business Administration, both from Lake Erie College. Stacy is dedicated and involved in the Willoughby Eastlake School District. She volunteers and serves as a member of the PTA at Longfellow Elementary School. She is a volunteer for the Mentor Figure Skating Club and has previously coached youth soccer for Mentor and Eastlake. Stacy is seeking a position on the school board because she cares about the quality of education for all students and wants to be a part of the district's future. As a parent, she understands that in-person education is the best way for children to learn, believes in medical decisions like masks should be up to the parents, and wants to ensure that ideologies like critical race theory are not part of the curriculum. The community and children deserve to have engaged members sitting on the school board. Stacy is an independent, critical thinker who is not afraid to speak up and be a voice for the community. As a parent, taxpayer, and alumni, she has invested interest in the strong schools. I said alumni, but it's really alumna, huh? Because you're a woman. Is that what the difference?
Yes.
I took Latin and I hated it. William Boxler, who's not here today, will read his statement. Bill has a long-term investment in the ongoing success of our district and the development of a strong and consistent school system. He has been a resident of the Willoughby Eastlake City Schools for over 50 years, graduating from Eastlake North High School in 1982. The first house Bill bought was in Willoughby, and then shortly after the birth of his first child, he and his family moved to Willoughby. He has nieces in the district as well as friends with kids in the system. Bill's in-laws were and are teachers. He has a basis for a better understanding of what our teachers are working hard to do. He is a technical trainer and small business owner in the district, so Bill believes he has the ability and knowledge to be able to work with the district, the business community, He's the past president of the PTO for the School of Innovation, and past president of the Friends of Willoughby Eastlake Library. His background provides Bill with the knowledge and skills necessary to serve on a board of individuals that have different ideas and bring a diverse skill to the table. Bill is a producer of the school system, a product of the school system. He has kids in the school system, and he knows that his business and property thrive on the success of the school system. That is Bill's investment in this district and why he believes voters should consider him as one of the best candidates for the Willoughby Eastlake Board of Education. Now I'm going to read real quickly. Again, I know this is a part class. You get to hear me read. I'm pretty good at it, huh? Thought so. This is Mr. Boxler's, I'm going to read Nicholas Brown's statement about his absence here today. This is an incredible event, and I truly appreciate the Willoughby Eastlake Public Library and the Willoughby Senior Center for putting together and hosting this event. I forgot Heart of Willoughby. Regrettably, I'm unable to participate in this event. My family was informed last evening that my son has been required to quarantine due to a close contact with a student that has tested positive for COVID-19. Out of respect for the Willoughby Eastlake Board of Education's policy and protocols regarding COVID-19, I'm electing not to participate in this public event. It is out of an abundance of caution that my family and myself respect this policy and do our part to ensuring our students can remain safe and in the classroom. I'm disappointed that I'm unable to participate in this incredible event, but I want to use this opportunity to be an example of sacrifice to keep our children in the classroom and safe from harm. Be and remain safe. Thank you. Okay, there's going to be a test at the end, so I hope you're taking notes. Okay, we'll get to the questions. Now, I'll call your name as to come up to the podium. Maureen will give you the microphone. Come up to the podium and use that microphone because we have the podium mic'd for the Facebook. And then when you're done, just give the microphone back to Maureen. Okay? Krista, you're up first. The question is, what one thing is our district's biggest strength?
Good morning. Can everybody hear me? Okay, I knew I was going to be first. I had a nightmare last night, so. Can you just repeat the question just one more time so I can accurately? Oh, I caught him drinking water. Our one strength of the district?
Still a little soft.
One strength of our district. There we go. I can project. Our district has many strengths. I almost feel it's an unfair question to isolate specifically one thing that our district does well. I think the most unique thing about the Willoughby Eastlake District is that we are 5 municipalities strong. This is not something that other districts have to overcome, to consider multiple viewpoints, homeowner values, positions within different socioeconomic statuses. Our schools get to look at broader issues that go outside of just our small community, like mine, Willowick. One of our strengths is absolutely the fact that we have 5 cities. And within there, the diverse ideas, the communication, the collaboration between families and the school can be enhanced because of that. I think also too, it allows diversity in our school settings to be kind of leveraged by teachers to have broader conversations. When we have a city like Willoughby Hills and a city like Willowick or Eastlake, these conversations are different in different households, and that's one of the best things about our school district. On top of that, we have a very broad pool of teachers by which to pull from because we have such a large school system. And as teachers grow and develop, the ability for them to go between schools, to work with different age groups of students, and to use their skills in different ways really helps our school to have a variety of means by which to deliver on curriculum and support each other in the development of the school as a whole. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Krista. Aaron, you're up next.
After that one. Yeah.
What one thing is our district's biggest strength?
Thank you. The one thing that I would say is our district's greatest strength is when I was pulling the standings of the Willoughby Eastlake School District, our school district has one of the highest concentrations of top ranks of public schools. I think that education is the foundation of a community. If your graduates, when they leave the school, they should be able to find employment, they should be able to contribute to society and become great members of the community. It's frustrating when I go to a fast food place in some of the communities outside of here, and say you get a sandwich for 99 cents, and you give the person, you got change in your dash, and you give them $1.09 so that you can get a dime back instead of more pennies, and they give you 25 cents back. Or the person at the window is confused as to why you gave them more money than what you're asked. Math is a critical element that needs to be emphasized in our school district. My kids go to School of Innovation, and I've sat down and I've spoken with the kids. What are they learning? And how is the School of Innovation different? Being that it's a STEM school, they concentrate on science, math, technology, and I can't remember what the other one is. Engineering. And so when the school board fails the kids, when the school board doesn't support the teachers, then that starts to punish the kids. This last school year, because we were primarily virtual, I know how much of a struggle it was for the kids. And so I'm hoping to represent that a little bit better.
Thank you, Eric. Stacy, you're up next. What one thing is our district's biggest strength?
Sure, as many others said, the district has lots of strengths. The one biggest strength I think that our district has is the Northern Career Institute in Willoughby and Eastlake. NCI teaches the kids important trades, and not only do we need kids that go on to college, we need kids to go into the trade world to make better individuals and adults. The trades is huge right now, and educating them and giving them the opportunity they may not have otherwise had is very important.
Okay, thank you very much, Stacey. And Chuck, you're up. What is the one thing in our district's biggest strength?
The biggest strength?
biggest strength?
Well, I think with the district, the biggest strength is that there's a good diversity of people that are in with the school systems. There could be some improvements, but for the most part, for example, the education is good, for the students and the staff. Teachers that they hire are very good as well. So they have a tough job to do, but they do it. As of, employment after they get out of school, it seems like that could, be an issue that could be addressed, but it's being addressed slowly but surely. So we have to just, get some strengths and weaknesses that we need to advise on.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Brian Jones did email this morning his regrets, and sorry he couldn't be here. Okay, the next question, Aaron, you're up first for this one. This is one of my favorite questions to ask somebody. I usually apply to the person themselves, but in this case, I'm going to apply to the district. What one thing is the district's biggest challenge that has to be fixed?
The biggest challenge that needs to be fixed is that we have to maintain in-person education. As I said the last time, a lot of students struggled. Not only did that increase struggles with their mental health, depression, anxiety, the lack of social interaction. There are some ideas that I thought about to maintain in-person education. If we have to, when they close down some of the schools, take the elementary and middle school children and keep them in the schools inside the facilities and let the older students do not telehealth, do the virtual learning. It's easier for them to do that, and the younger ones, they need that in-person education. They need that face-to-face. They need to be with other students. They need the discipline that is applied while in the classroom. So if we get to a point to where we have to close down like we did last year, I think we should use the facilities to maintain face-to-face education for the younger students and allow them an opportunity to thrive in their education that way.
Thank you. Stacy, you're up next. And again, the question is, what one thing is the district's biggest challenge that has to be fixed?
Sure. I feel that the biggest challenge is levies and school funding. The schools consistently rely on the renewal of many levies, but also emergency levies. There's only a few districts in Ohio that rely on these emergency levies. The voters get fatigued when they're constantly faced with these. And the community wants the district to be frugal with funds, and the community does not want to pay more taxes.
Thank you very much. I'll put as a side note that, I'm sorry, I'll ask that in one of the other questions. Never mind. Chuck, you're up. What is the one thing that's the district's biggest challenge and has to be fixed?
Well, I think the biggest challenge that they have is financing and funding used for the district. They got to restructure all the funding. These tax levies, they constantly get passed. People are on fixed incomes. Unfortunately, with the pandemic, people are out of work. They can't afford to have their taxes increased for real estate taxes. For an example, real estate taxes go to the majority of the school board. So where is all this money going? Okay, that they're getting to where they have to always pass these levies and taxes, and like I said, people can't afford to pay much more. And I'm sorry, if I'm elected, I will not vote yes on any more tax levies because everybody is strapped for cash. Thank you.
And Krista. What is the one thing in the district's biggest challenge and needs to be fixed?
So the biggest challenge that our district does face is our levies. But the finances is only a small component of that problem. There's a short-term and a long-term problem when it comes to our levies. Short-term is the community's understanding of levies, our current budgeting and financing within our district. I myself will plead ignorance on many issues. I can look it up online. I can sit down and read a spreadsheet, but I am not the treasurer of the district. But as a community person, as well as somebody who's going to vote on levies, we need to be able to access a little bit more information in lay terms so that I can make an educated decision, have a collaborative conversation, and then make a choice. Not just do it as an emotionally charged decision, which some people do and some people do not. That's short term. Our community needs to collaborate in understanding first, where are we? Where will we be? What can we control? What can we not control? And then from there, as a community, devise a plan that helps us overcome the obstacles that are not the result, and dare I say, the existing board, but rather, we have a long-term history of some maybe missteps financially. So we are dealing with the result of previous decision-making, and we want to bring our district into the future. Well, past finance strategy does not apply to a 21st century world. So, moving forward, to build a sustainable district, how do we do that? And I'll tell you, 1 of 5 people on the board are not going to be the solution to that. So short term, we as a community need to come together, understand, critically ask, and then come up with a plan to move forward, to investigate alternative routes to fund our schools and address the levy issue. Short-term, collaboration and communities conversation is really one of our biggest obstacles, and that is tied directly to our levies. Long-term, looking at our levies, how they are funded, and what we do to get ahead of this problem to not perpetuate it in the future for our children is where we also need to focus. That's that.
Thank you, Krista. Okay, Stacy, you're up for the next one. This is going to be a fun one. Wait till she gets to the podium. This is where it's fun to be first. How many school board meetings have you been to in the last 5 years?
In the last 5 years, I have been to probably 8 school board meetings. A lot of them I attended, when I first started attending them, were online because of COVID.
Okay, thank you. Let's see, Chuck, you're up next. How many school board meetings have you been to in the last 5 years?
Well, within the last 5 years, I believe I have attended roughly about 2 to 3 school board meetings due to my work schedule. I've been definitely keeping up online with the present meetings and everything. So I think about four, about 4 or 5. About 4.
Okay, thank you. I know it's hard to try and
It's hard to remember.
I can't remember 30 seconds ago. I often will text myself when I'm getting out of my chair why I'm in the kitchen. And then I read. Krista, how many school board meetings have you been to in the last 5 years?
I have attended every school board meeting since we've returned to face-to-face. I've also watched every school board meeting that was streamed live during the pandemic. I participated with the levy committee in the previous levy renewal, as well as I attended intermittently school board meetings previously, not only for my school district, for my children, but also for other school districts where I was either operating a business within and had connections to, and or if I was a teacher in the district, I attended those meetings as well. So I frequent them often.
Thank you. And Aaron, this gave you a chance to go back in your memory and count.
Since we have returned to in-face, I've attended all of them in person. There's been 4 of them that I watched previous to that over the internet. So.
Thank you. Okay, Chuck, you're up for the next one first. What is the one thing you would change? What do you bring to the table that would be an improvement?
Well, the one thing I would change if elected to the school board is that I would try to vote to restructure the financial aspects of the school board, because that is definitely needed. To know where all of the money is going, and then I would also, like I said, not vote on the past levies and increase taxes.
Okay. Krista, you're up next for that question. What one thing would you change, and what can you bring to the table that would be an improvement?
One thing I would change is absolutely the communication strategy our district has taken with parents as well as with the community. I'm not going to say I have an answer right now because I'll be one of 5 people on a school board working with the superintendent and administrators to develop a strategy, as well as with the community and parents to understand what are the best ways by which to deliver messages and on what time frames. Now, the one thing that I bring to the table is perspective. When our superintendent brings policy to the table or decision-making to the table, there's limited time and forum by which a school board member can do Q&A and research. This is either crunched by decision-making times and/or the way by which the board is limited in communication. Minority communications versus majority, in-person meeting public forum versus executive session. So when you have those moments in front of your superintendent, you have to have the experience necessary to ask critical questions in that moment based on experience and education. And in those moments, we need somebody in our superintendent's ear who can influence and leverage different approaches to say, is this the best decision? And why? And what else did you consider? Because I've considered this, I'm aware of that. What's your perspective? And in those moments, in those quick moments when you have to make decisions, and in the limited ways by which the board can communicate with the community and with the administration, you have to maximize those moments. And with my experience in education, I feel in those moments, I can help expand the perspective that our decision makers take when they're developing policy and making choices for our families, communities, and children.
Thank you, Krista. Aaron. What's the one thing you would change? What can you do? What can you bring to the table that would be an improvement?
One thing that I would change is I would change the funding for the schools. Instead of funding through taxes on property tax, I would change it to do funding on personal income tax. COVID has really done a number on a lot of people's personal income. There are other communities, such as farming communities, that will, they don't do the property tax for the farming communities. They use the personal income tax. That's one thing that I would do to make a change. I would work on doing that. Make it easier for a lot of people if their property taxes are going up, for those that are on limited income or because of COVID and they've lost income or reduced income, or if a spouse has to stay home, they have to stop working. That's going to also reduce the income. So I would change, that's the one thing that I would work on changing, is to addressing it with the funding for that. What do I bring? Traveling around the world from the time I was in the military and working with different ethnic diversities and different cultures, being a therapist and working with people on their mental health and their struggles and their anxieties, I want to make sure that we provide the best mental health care and counselors in the school district that we can for the kids, because when they're struggling with it being either bullying or with academic success or problems at home with their family, I think that we need to make sure that we are there to support the children as much as possible with their mental health.
Thank you. And Stacy. What one thing would you change, and what can you bring to the table that would be an improvement?
Sure. There needs to be more out-of-the-box thinking to make the district a better place. There needs to be some other collaborative message we need to put out. We need to stop relying on these emergency levies. What that out-of-box thinking is, I don't know at this time. There will be 5 members on the board that we can collaborate to try and come up with other ideas. What I bring to the table is I'm a parent. Not one person on this current school board has a child that attends in the district.
Okay, thank you very much. Krista, you're up for the next question. Passing renewal levies will be a challenge. You've mentioned that other school districts have what's called permanent levies, where you vote on it once and it stays on. A renewal levy is every time it comes up, it's for fixed years. So I think there's about 5 levies coming up for renewal the next 8 years. How do you intend to be a good steward of the finances of the school district?
To be a good steward of anything, you have to first become informed and educated. I've already taken steps by which to do so. I have met with our treasurer, I have met with our superintendent, and had the opportunity to Q&A them. I've looked at the 5-year forecast and been able to one-on-one critically analyze and understand what is occurring now, what the gap in time will be where we do not have levies on the ballot, and when it will resume. So I'm informed to this point as to what our current stance is. I think that's where you need to start. You can't move forward if you don't understand where you've been. And we have a levy up for renewal in November, and then in May, and then in November. And if those levies do not pass, it will impact our services in fall of '22. So we have a short, finite time frame in which to analyze and react and to make decisions as a community. We have a few years in which we will not have levies on the ballot. That will be a critical time for our community to come together and try to find strategy to, one, educate and understand that in 2026, I believe, please don't quote me, I have it in my notes, I just don't want to hold them. In 2026, we'll start our next renewal cycle with levies, November, May. So we have this small period of time where we as a community can come together and figure out how do we attack the renewal versus the permanent levies, what does that mean, and what does our community want, and more importantly, what can they support? So education is key, bringing in community involvement, but staying in the moment and understanding that waiting to make decisions in the future will impact us now. So we have to get ahead of it and manage it while we can.
Thank you, Krista. Aaron, you're up next. Passing renewal levies will be a challenge. How do you intend to be a good steward of the finances of the school district?
As I hate to say as somebody else said, but as Krista said, accountability and communication is key. I think that when the last levy had to go before the community 3 times, I think that there was poor communication between the school district and the community to let them know why we really needed this levy. Understanding where the state had cut funds, understanding allocation of where funds are going to go, and talking with the community to base on what the needs of the school system is going to be, and communicating with the community where there's a shortfall. Making sure that the community is aware of why we would be needing to ask for a school levy. That's important. If you want something to pass, you have to tell the people why you need the help, what's going on, what had failed in the past, what had worked in the past. Compare what other school districts, outside the box thinking, like Stacy had said, we need more of that. Instead of staying so rigid and following the communications of one individual person, you need the community to be involved. You need all of the board members to communicate well with each other and think outside of the box. For example, when I was talking to somebody about the meal program and things like that, when you get into a contract with somebody, always be prepared to think out. I keep repeating myself. I'll just stop there.
Okay. Thank you, Aaron. Stacy? It's not easy getting up in front, talking in front of people, I'm really impressed. You're all doing a great job. Renewal levies, as you mentioned, is a challenge. How do you intend to be a good steward of the finances of the school district?
Sure. Well, right now, the board hires the treasurer to oversee the financial obligations of the district and to make sure that we are being fiscally responsible. If I were to get on the board, then at that time, I would review the financials and each issue as it's presented to me, and at that time, make a decision that is best for the students.
And Chuck? Passing levies, renewal levies is a challenge. How do you intend to be a good steward of the finances of the school district?
Well, it comes down to actually being able to look at the budget. And when you can't do that, the board members can't really look at the budget and make an informed decision, to get with the public to see what, what's in their best interest. It's very difficult without the public knowing what, as everyone else said, what these levies are for. That's not right. Everybody needs to be on the same page. If they want the money and they want everybody's tax dollars to go for these levies, then everybody needs to see what they're actually for, okay, and the money needs to be allocated, okay, for that purpose, okay, and not spent elsewhere. So if I went on the school board, what I would want to review the budget and see where every dime is going for that levy and if it's needed.
Okay. Thank you, Chuck. Krista, you're up first for the next question. I think that everybody would agree that next to parents, teachers are the biggest influence on students. How should the board best support our teachers?
This is a topic very close to my heart. I'm an educator, and educators can only progress and develop to keep current with new curriculum standards, as well as social and society issues, as well as know what parents need and want to be taught in the schools versus what should be at home, if they're supported by their district. Professional development training is underutilized by a lot of schools, and there's a variety of reasons why that is. It's not for lack of interest, not for lack of trying, or for want or need. We need to look at our professional development, our programming, our plan, and how we support our teachers. We are living in different and new times. How are we preparing our teachers to be able to get ahead of unknown future issues, like a pandemic? I have been quarantined with my children this year. I have worked with many teachers, and they do not feel comfortable, some of them, teaching virtually, streaming video. They don't have strategy or curriculum development methods by which support their ability to meet standards and still engage and teach. So what are we doing as a district to get ahead of that? Well, like every other district, we're scrambling. We need to look to the future and not only meet CEUs, which require their license to be upheld. We need to look at the broad body of our educators and leverage their areas of interest and expertise, diversify their master's degree programs and support those, as well as additional certificate credentialing to allow our body of teachers to bring more to our classroom settings and be prepared for the unknowns, specifically in the area of technology and the use of leveraging that for educating our students.
Thank you, Krista. Aaron, it's up for you too. How can the board best support our teachers?
When I spoke to a few of the teachers this past year through Google Chrome when they were given their classes, one of the biggest thing was the fact that a lot of the teachers were not prepared for teaching virtually. The professional development, that's key. Society changes, topics change, and when you come into a situation with a pandemic where you have to go virtually, a lot of the teachers that I spoke to about 17 different teachers throughout the school district, and I talked to a couple of the principals, and the technology that we had this past school year, there were so many challenges that they had. Safety is another issue that we need to offer more support to the staff. There was one substitute teacher that had told me of an incident where a child tried to attack her and the rest of the class with scissors. And there was some protocol that was set up in the school. When they tried to use that protocol and enact it, it took 35 minutes before they were able to get assistance. We can't allow our children to be, and our staff to be, at risk of harm to themselves. And so I think that the biggest thing we need to do is to concentrate on talking with the teachers, find out where the needs are, and we really need to address those needs. Don't think that we can come up with a better idea. They're the ones that are doing the job, and we need more open communication with them and to apply those needs.
Thank you. And Chuck. I'm sorry, Stacy's next. I'm sorry. You see this little chart? This is cool. I think I check off who's next. We best support our teachers.
So we need to know what the teachers need from the board. What support can we help them with? Communication is key. I have heard that morale among teachers is at an all-time low, and we need to know what we can do to help. We need to make sure they are not afraid to come forward and ask for help or tools or technology or any materials they need, and some feel they cannot do that with the current administration.
Thank you, Stacy. Chuck. How can the board best support our teachers?
Well, the board can best support the teachers to make sure they have the training and the technology behind them. As I agree with everybody that when everything went remote, nothing was taught. I mean, everybody was scrambling to do something, and that's not right. And I had spoke to several teachers as well. They won't go to the board and for various reasons. Teachers are right now for the job that they have to do are underpaid. They need to be paid more, and and as I said, have the training behind them to to be able to use this technology effectively, because everybody's struggling. I was a college student as well, and I did online courses, and I struggled doing that. So when the teachers are struggling, they got to be able to go to that board, and be able to have everything that they need, and tell them, and not be worried of what the board's going to say. Oh no, we can't do this, we can't do that. Well, with the current administration now, that seems what it is, and that just can't be.
Okay, thank you, Chuck. Again, I encourage you, raise your hand, and Debbie will give you a 3x5 card, a pencil, pen. Maureen brought 450 pens, so if you'd like to submit something you think we're not covering well, please. Okay, Aaron's up first with this one. We are the largest school district in the county, bigger than Mentor. Being CEO of this district is a tough job. Our superintendent, our current one, has been interviewing for a job at 3 different locations that I'm aware of. He was the finalist. What's the most important skill for a new superintendent when you're interviewing one?
The most important skill.
I told you they'd be fine.
Most important skill would be collaboration. Instead of trying to stay closed-minded on situations, instead of trying to follow suggestions from the state when the state has said they're leaving things up to the school board, I think that the next superintendent, whenever we do get one, I think that he needs to collaborate more with the board members that put him or her into that position. I think that this current, I don't want to badmouth anybody. That's one thing I said I was not going to do. I think that this board is currently not able to do their best job underneath the current superintendent. I think that it's the board that should be running the school system and not the superintendent. I think that he or she needs to be more accountable for their actions, both on a personal level and at a professional level, and do more thinking outside of the box versus trying to be more aggressive in a negative way towards running the school board.
Okay, thank you, Aaron. Stacy? What's the most important skill for a new superintendent?
Sure, I feel the most important skill for a new superintendent would be the ability to have clear and concise communication, to go out in the public and engage with them instead of ignoring the public. You don't get return phone calls, you don't get return emails. That's a problem when you're representing the community. The superintendent needs to stay to running the day-to-day activities and let the school board handle the policies.
Okay. Thank you, Stacy. Chuck, you're next. What's the most important skill that you might look for in hiring a new superintendent?
The most important skill I would look for is effective communication. You've got to be able to communicate with the members of the community, the school board. When you don't have that, and when you don't have that, okay, everything's a mess, okay? Nobody has communication, nobody does anything. What the superintendent needs to do is focus on the day-to-day aspects as stated, and let the school board make the choices, because the school board, okay, has, number one, more time, more effectiveness. You can't be closed-minded, and you have to communicate, be able to communicate with the public effectively, okay, to get the good results. If you can't do that, okay, then unfortunately that job would not be for you.
Okay, thank you, Chuck. Krista, what's the most important skill you would look for in hiring a new superintendent?
The most important skill that I would look for in looking for a superintendent would be leadership skill. Anyone who's held a leadership position knows it's humbling, it is extremely challenging, and it is very lonely. And it is very difficult to be the target of decision-making that maybe you are only a part of versus maybe being the only decider. In a superintendent, I want a humble spirit. I want someone who comes to a meeting knowing that they do not hold all of the answers to the question. I want a superintendent who asks more questions than they declare answers. I want a superintendent who has education and experience, but knows that education and experience is an ever-evolving state of being. That what they did in the past to make their prior schools or work environment successful may or may not work in our new district. It's really important to stay current, be open to ideas, and to seek collaboration and communication. A good leader lifts up the voices of people around them. A good leader's name is not the name that you hear the most often. It's the community that you hear. It's allowing administrators to propose policy and to take the limelight. It's allowing teachers to be the voice of a decision-making. It's allowing the community to take credit and to be the driving force behind some things. A superintendent needs to be a leader. And a leader isn't just somebody who wants the job. It's an innate sensibility that when you walk into a room, you know that the people that you are with have more answers than you do. And respect that, embrace it, and empower it. And that's what I would like in a superintendent, whether current or future. And that's what I would bring to the table when working with that individual, is to help them realize their own potential. Because the school board is the employer of the superintendent, and it's their job to support whomever is below them, because the Board of Education success lies in success of their superintendent, their administrators, and their teachers.
I'm sorry, I got it right. That was awesome. Okay, Stacy, you're up for the next one. There's a number of different roles as you break down a board and an executive director or a superintendent in terms of whose responsibility is what. That's one of the biggest things that cause problems and also make successes. What do you think is the biggest role for the school board?
There's many roles for the school board. The biggest is to review and approve policies. Also to review budget and meeting agenda, and to, most importantly, ask questions, not to just be a yes man sitting up there saying yes to everything without questioning and doing your research.
Thank you very much. Chuck, you're up next. What is the biggest role for the school board to play?
Well, I think the biggest role for the school board to play is obviously they make the policies, they have to make the guidelines. Okay, when you're on the school board, okay, and you say yes to everything, okay, there's no structure there, okay? And I'm the type of person that I'm not a yes man. I'm going to listen to all the facts and do all the, whatever I need to do and listen to and review prior to making a decision, okay, for everybody, and try to do, what's best. You have budgeting you have to worry about, you have, as I said, policies, you have, various other roles that, that need to be filled. And, you can't just go up there and go, when somebody says something, oh, we're going to vote on this, yes, 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 yes. Sorry, you can't do that. You got to be sure to look at everything before you do that.
Okay, thank you, Chuck. Krista? What is the biggest role for the school board?
This is a question I recently investigated for myself. And instead of assuming I knew what it was, I sought information. So I attended a training actually conducted by the Ohio School Board Association, which is an institution that we utilize as a district. I wanted to understand that perspective. The role of the school board is what the school board makes it. And each school board is uniquely diverse in its own way, addressing the needs of the communities that they serve, which is why you have to be an elected official to serve in that position. First, I think the school board's role is to consider all ideas. That's really hard. And I have actually heard out of the mouths of certain people, Krista, you're a parent. That's an Achilles heel. You'll only ever think as a parent. That's an unfair box to put somebody in. The school board needs to be able to consider not only the needs of them, their city, and our unique boards, unique circumstance with many cities. Not only my child, but all children. And the school board needs to consider all ideas. And unfortunately, as in most community settings, we have to do what the best decision the majority can receive. At the same time, the school board has to be really great at asking questions. And they have to ask challenging questions. They have to play the devil's advocate. They have to maybe agree, but then try to find the holes in the theory, the logic, or the policy. They also, within their limited resource, and they are bound by many limitations, to seek information from a variety of sources and utilize those sources by which to make a judgment. The school board needs to be open-minded, have an open ear, and more importantly, be future-sighted. Today, our decisions generally don't impact until tomorrow. So we need to stay very focused on what works today, and also what will work tomorrow.
Thank you, Krista. Aaron, what is the biggest role for the school board?
The biggest role of the school board, in my opinion, is to be able to offer the best support for the education for the students. That's going to come in many different ways. It's going to include the support that the staff needs, the administrators of the schools, the bus drivers. We need to be able to make sure that the kids are getting to school safe, that they're getting there and being able to learn in the best environment. I mean, that's what schools are for. The schools are for the children. They're not for the parents. They're not necessarily there for the community. The schools are there for the students. And we need the role of the school board is to make sure that we're offering them the best education that we possibly can. How is that going to happen? You know, all of these issues that we're talking about today. We need to be able to talk to the students. You know, when I was coaching Little League this past summer, I went and I asked the kids, what can we do if I were to get elected? What could we do as a school board that would make your education easier, make it better for you, make it more fun? And you know, I got a range of things. One, the kid said we want more free time to take the masks down if we can to get some fresh air. One kid said I want better tasting pizza. Another kid said that they want the teachers to be nicer. You know, that's what this is all about. This is all about the kids. It's not about me or these individuals here. It's about the kids. And that's what the role of the school board is there. We're there to represent the kids. On top of that, we do have to take into account the community, the leadership roles in the family. We need to talk with them and ask what do they need. And that's what the school board needs to do. They need to be there for the children, the educators, and the community.
Thank you, Aaron. Chuck, you're up for the next one. These are going to be short answers, I hope. How is the majority of your campaign funded?
The majority of my campaign is funded pretty much by myself. I'm using my own money. I'm not soliciting donations. Due to the current pandemic and the employment and everybody being strapped for money, I don't feel right going, and setting up, fundraisers or whatever I need to do to, gain finances. I'm just going to use my own funds for my campaign. Thank you.
Thank you. Krista, how is your campaign funded?
Currently, my campaign is funded, it's self-funded, and I am also receiving through requests, can I provide an in-kind donation? So I have members of the community as well as my circle that are saying, how can I help? And then within the confines of how we can finance or receive funds from other people, I'm receiving donations as well as goods, like they can donate a good versus a dollar amount, and or just their time in helping me. So essentially self-funded with individuals asking to support if they can.
Thank you, Kristen. Aaron? How was your campaign funded?
Mine has been, has been and is, it's all funded by myself. I've had a few people that have asked if they could donate, but I have not yet received or asked for any funds from themselves. It's just myself. I go out and drive for Uber on the weekends, use that money to fund it. But I've actually spent $0 on this so far. Facebook, talking with the people in the community, going out for coffee for people. It's all funded by myself.
Thank you, Aaron. Stacy? How is your campaign funded?
I am self-funding my campaign, but will graciously accept donations from individuals willing to donate any amount. I'm committed to being fiscally responsible, and I am mindful of budgets. I'm not planning on having any big fundraiser, and funds will be spent on items such as signs, literature, and t-shirts.
Thank you. Okay. When you're on a board such as this, or any nonprofit board, you get a packet that sometimes can be hundreds of pages of information, budget, expenses, director report, all of those sorts of things. It takes a lot of time to read, trust me. What in that packet is the info that you want the most? The first thing you go to in that packet? And that would be Christoph first.
I have learned through my corporate career that the things that people do not want to talk about the most, they put at the end. So when I receive a packet, I like to go to the end. I think this was demonstrated by our school board at our mental health work session. If you go back and look at it, in there they talked about everything with Crossroads, and the last slide dealt with our online academic university. It is a strategy that's used in business because you allot a certain amount of time by which to discuss issues, like 2 hours for our school board or an hour. So I like to go to the end of the packet. I like to look to see what's hidden that will not be given the time needed because we will have exhausted the time on other topics. And that'll be my strategy. And more importantly, I'm a detail person. I like to thoroughly go through and question the things that maybe are underdeveloped. We tend to leave details out when we don't want to discuss them. So when details are missing, that's when I start asking questions. When we want to focus on a topic, people will overly detail that topic. Well, why do we not have details equally amongst all issues? So I focus on the lack of details, and I go to the end. And that's how I'd approach my board packet.
Thank you, Krista. Aaron? What's the most important document in that packet you receive every month?
Honestly, I haven't seen the package, so I honestly don't know. So what I would do is I'd open up and I'd look at the beginning of the topics, and the things that I'm not familiar with, the things that I'm ignorant in, that's the very first thing that I'm going to go to.
Okay, thank you. Stacy? What's the most important thing in that packet you go to first?
Everything in the packet's important. You need to read all of it. People generally tend to put what they want you to see first and hide things in the end, as Krista said, but nothing in that packet should be disregarded.
Thank you. Chuck? What's the most important thing in that packet you get from the...
Well, the most important thing would be towards the end of the packet, because as stated, nobody wants to. If something that doesn't want to be discussed, they're going to put it towards the end. All the time is going to be wasted on the front of the packet. So what I would do, okay, and especially with areas that I don't know, is I would definitely look at that, and if questions are vague, I would ask myself, hey, what's going on with this, what's going on with that, but definitely start at the end. because then you're gonna find out, that most people, like I said, are gonna put everything towards the end because they don't wanna discuss it, so basically, what do you wanna do when you don't wanna discuss something? You hide it, you throw it aside, you put it towards the end. I wouldn't do that. And if I'm not educated on something, I have no problem asking somebody for help.
Okay, thank you. Kristen, you're first up for this one. We know that there's so much money coming in through levies. We know that money has to go out. Often there's an imbalance. One of the first programs that suffer are the arts, music, drawing, that sort of thing. That makes a student whole. It applies to some students more than others. In the same way, we have a trade school with the NCI that teaches them things that not everybody's meant to go to college, basically. And lastly, we have the School of Innovation, a separate building, a separate expenses, that sort of thing. So tell me how you balance, what would you do when it comes to be making a decision? You only have so much money.
This is a really good question.
Thank you. That was not mine. Whoever did that, congratulations. That was a great question.
When I was in elementary school, the class that I looked forward to going to the most was art class. It felt like the pressure was off of me. I could go and just draw and enjoy the moment. I remember the crayon bin coming out, remember the smell of the tempera paint that never came off my clothes that my mother always yelled at me for, until I started wearing my dad's big t-shirt as a smile. I remember playing the recorder when I was in first grade and how horrible I was at it, but how much I loved it. And I would play that recorder outside in the garage where my mom and dad asked me to, and I loved every second of playing hot cross buttons. You remember it. If you have children, you're experiencing it. Music and art are part of our soul as a society. Everybody came here today with the radio on with something that just kind of set your mood or changed it. Music education, as well as art education, can be incorporated into daily reading, writing, and arithmetic. That requires us to stop thinking inside of the lines and say, the standards say, and funding has to go here because we have our 3rd grade reading guarantee and our 10th grade proficiencies. And what about those air tests? Those are important, and we have to be logical, rational adults. Funding comes from those testing, from those tests. So ultimately, we have to be creative. We need to embrace people who are doing it on a daily basis and encourage them to come up with solutions. More importantly, I feel that we could include our children in that discussion in middle and high school to see if they can find a way to creatively fund and or incorporate into their daily activities. The arts and music will and always has been a focus of mine. But at the end of the day, budgets are budgets. The way our schools are funded is unconstitutional. And I think we as a society need to address that issue. And our school board can help do that.
Thank you, Krista. Aaron, how would you strike that balance between providing things like arts and technical training and not having the money?
They say that it takes a village to raise a child. We need to do more collaboration within the community. We are in a very unique location here in Northeast Ohio. We've got a lot of park systems. We've got a lot of colleges and universities with students that are coming up in education. We have the largest theater district outside of New York, outside of Broadway, is here in Cleveland. We need to do more collaboration like some of the universities do. We've got the Anderson, the place there on Vine, yeah. We've got that. You see out in Chardon, they've got the play, the theater that kids can participate in. I think there's one in Cleveland Heights. A lot of the local communities have those things. We don't have that here. We need to do more collaboration with the community so that the village can help to raise the children as well. And fine arts, that's a great way. We've got a lot of, it's the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame is here in Cleveland. We have a lot of talented people in this area, and I think that we should take advantage of that.
Okay, thank you very much. Stacy. How can you do the broad spectrum of arts education without the money?
Sure. Arts, STEM, and trades are all important to make children well-rounded. These would be the times, as I stated previously, where you would need to think outside of the box. We need to be creative to come up with different ways to keep these items in the school for the children. What those ideas are, I don't know. There would be 5 people sitting on the board. So that would be the time when you come together and collaborate to come up with a way to fund those.
Thank you. Chuck? You were especially strong on your feelings about no new levies.
No.
How would you fund the different, do you need to fund different things, and how would you do it?
Well, the first thing what I would need without passing levies is, with funding, is, I mean, there's got to be, you can do fundraisers, you can do various other forms of, of funding, without raising the taxes, and use, the money that the school board has, because, I feel that the money that the school board does get in is being mismanaged. That definitely has to be addressed, okay, in order to figure out where the money's at, you've got to first be able to manage the money that you do have, okay? And I don't see it being done. But what I would do is have, like I said, there's going to be other people on the school board, so that's going to be, more ideas to come up with, versus talking with everybody than having me stand up here and try to come up with ideas when there's 4 or 5 other people that we can, have a solution to, to handle the problem.
Okay, Aaron, you're up first. Trying to decide if I can ask one more question before we get to the biggies. All right, you don't mind staying a few minutes after class? State testing is also a very volatile issue with both teachers, with parents, with school boards. You can discuss the pros and cons of state testing. Ultimately, though, the same tests are given to the same school districts. Beechwood, of course, a very well-off neighborhood, scores about a 3.8, an A. Mentor, their average is 2.5, a C+. We score 2.0, a C, across, considering all of them. If that's not the answer, if it's not going to be the measure, how would you measure progress and success in the district?
Start with the students. Ask them what they're not learning. Ask them what they want to learn, what they need to learn. When I printed this off, it saw that we're ranked within the top 50% of the 914 school districts in Ohio, based off of math and reading. That's 2018, 2019. When I ask my kids daily, well, maybe not daily, when I ask my kids what did they learn that day, they sometimes tell me, sometimes they won't. We need to make it more fun for them. That's how kids are going to learn. Kids are going to learn if they're having fun. The state testing, here's one. Homework. Kids hate homework, period. I hated homework when I was in school. They're in school from 9 in the morning, 8, 9 in the morning until 2, 3 in the afternoon. If you send them home and you're giving them homework, they're burned out. When we all come home from work, we don't want to come back home and do more work. Who likes coming home and getting stressed out because they've got this chore list to do? It's the same thing with the kids. They don't want to come home and do their homework, so allow them an opportunity to have a little bit more fun. There's programs out there that they can. They had a bug zoo or something like that at the park. And the kids went and they learned more there than what they've ever learned in their science classes about the insects in the area. And it was fun for them. So I would try to reduce or remove the amount of homework. I've heard of some school districts that make it's not allowed for the kids to have homework. Now, when you have kids that are struggling, they may need some tutoring or things like that. But one thing I would do is ask the students. They'll tell you what they're learning and what they're not learning.
Thanks, Aaron. Stacy, up to you. What do you think is a good measure, or what would you measure progress and success of the district?
We're still on the grades, or is this a different?
Pardon me?
We're still on the grades of the school system?
We're on the testing, and if you discount testing, what would be, how would you measure success?
Sure. Well, I do not believe that our state report card grades are fair based on what the kids are learning in school. The board hires the superintendent to put in place the personnel that helps raise our state grades. Now, we do have fabulous teachers in the district, but there has to be a reason why these grades are so low. We need to get to the root cause of that. I don't know what that is, but that needs to be researched.
Thank you. Chuck, you're up. What would you use as a measure of progress and success?
Well, what I would use is, the first thing I would use is, you definitely have to talk to the students and the parents. Find out what the students want to learn, okay, and what they're not learning. Okay, if they're not learning something, okay, instead of having them, okay, constantly look at a book or get everything out of a book, take them to the actual field, okay, of what they want to learn. Okay, there's only going to be so much that you could learn from a book, okay. When you're actually out there and actually physically doing it hands-on, you learn more, okay? It's going to be more interactive, it's going to be more fun, okay? Then the kids aren't stressed out, parents aren't stressed out because they're coming out with a whole bunch of homework, okay? Because it's hard on the parents as well, okay, helping their children with the homework. So if you can eliminate that, okay, and have more of a hands-on training with everything, it would go a lot better. But it comes down to basically asking the students and the parents, okay, of what they want to learn, or what are they learning, or what are they having problems in.
Thank you. Krista. Being last is fun because you get to hear everybody else and come and take notes. What do you think we should use as a measure of progress?
This is a great question that has already been explored by our district. There was a detail that was left out in our scorecard, and that our district might score that, but there's one school that blows it out of the water. The School of Innovation scores A's across the board. We already have a model in place that proves when we differentiate our curriculum approach and tailor it to a certain set of students, it is successful. Is that going to be successful for all students? No. But Willoughby Eastlake was bold enough once to take a chance and try a STEM school. Why not be bold and take a chance in another area? What that is something that I would collaborate on with the community, teachers, students, and families. We need to understand that the American educative system, if you're an educator, you learn about theory all day long and you get so pumped up to go and teach, and then you enter the classroom and bureaucracy takes over. And the grounded theories that demonstrate that we learn and how we learn as human beings are thrown out the window to make sure we get test scores. We need to be bold. European education allows around age middle school to differentiate and to choose a track. And that track allows you to explore and prepare for a career that you most feel inclined to do. I have 3 children. My oldest son hates school, but he's brilliant. You put a machine in his hands, he can take it apart, put it together, explain it to you, and do it with a smile on his face. He needs education like that. Our district needs to be bold like we were when we sought soy, and we need to critically think, could we implement that model in different and other ways to engage children so that they can thrive with A's across the board and be excited about going to school?
Thank you, Krista. Okay, Stacy, you're up for the next one. How do you feel about students and staff wearing COVID masks?
I will begin by saying that I am not against anyone wearing a mask if they choose to do so. I oppose mandatory masking in the schools for the students. I believe that all medical decisions, including wearing a mask, should be made by the parents. I believe that staff members have the right as adults to make their own decisions regarding wearing a mask. Again, these are medical decisions that should not be mandated. I did some research from Mental Health America, and the mental health of children has declined. According to MHA, this decline can be contributed to isolation, loneliness, and mask wearing. Per MHA, there has been a 93% increase in kids seeking help for anxiety and depression. As a board, we would need to look into other ways to keep our kids safe, and one option might be air purification machines.
Chuck, you're up next. What are your thoughts on masks for student and staff?
What was that in?
What are your thoughts on wearing masks for the students and staff?
Okay, well, I believe with the masking, that needs to be left up to the parents, and the teachers and the staff should be able to make their own decisions, okay? Regardless of the fact of the matter, if you mandate something, okay, physically, you can't physically make somebody, okay, do something. Okay, this has to be left up to the parents, okay, for their children, and their, teachers should be able to make their own choice. Now, if you want to wear one, okay, great, I'm not going to fault you for that, okay? That's fine and good. I wear one too, okay, when I'm at work and when I have to, okay? Nobody judges me. I wouldn't judge anybody regardless of what they want to do, but fact being, okay, this needs to be left up to the parents and, for their children, because they're the ones that are raising their children. They know what's best. Teachers and staff should be able to make their own decisions as well, because they are, they're adults, and, that's how it should be. Like I said, if you want to wear one, you wear one. If you don't, you don't. But the unfortunate situation is that COVID, unfortunately, is not going away. Okay, so we have to have other ideas, okay, of what we can do, to keep the students, the teachers, and the staff safe. Whether it be, go back to online learning, but then again, you're going to have to struggle with that, and that's going to be a challenge. So I don't think that would be a good option. We would have to think of other options, and remedies to keep everybody safe, regardless of what they want to do. Now, people that are wearing masks and not wearing masks, okay, I found out from a parent, I won't give their name, that the child was separated from basically the rest of the class due to not wanting to wear a mask and getting a mask exemption. Okay, I don't think that's right, okay, and it's just not right when you have to segregate kids and separate them. They should all be together. Thank you.
Thank you, Chuck. Krista, how do you feel about wearing masks for students and staff?
First, I want to say this is a very important and personal issue for me and my family. My husband is autoimmune compromised, and we as a family discussed and choose to wear masks to protect him, as well as others who we don't know who might also be autoimmune compromised. Communicable disease hasn't always been a part of our schools. In fact, I challenge everyone to Google Communicable Disease Chart, ODJFS. It's actually a really beautiful chart that many nurses in schools utilize to identify communicable disease and how to handle it. By the way, it hasn't been updated since December of 2016. That chart tells us the illness incubation period, symptoms, method of transmission, communicable period, exclusion requirements, control methods, and reporting requirements for child care and educative institutions. This sounds familiar. We've had a lot of literature lately addressing those issues. I want you to think back 5 years ago when you were standing in the grocery line. If somebody was coughing and sneezing, how did you feel being next to them? You put space between yourself and them. You said, cough into your arm, wash your hands. We as a society have always tried to mitigate illness. Many parents remember putting their child on the school bus next to another student who had a green faucet nose, and you're like, oh, we're gonna get sick. One day, COVID will be on our communicable disease chart. One day, it'll be a Class B illness that allows us to handle it in the same way we do the flu today. When you're symptomatic, stay home, and within 24 hours and symptom-free, come back to school. Until that point, we need to reduce the spread of COVID for the same reason we do any communicable disease. But what I will say is, our conversation needs to be more about communicable disease prevention, sanitation, and knowledge than just about masks. That is a short-sighted issue that we all pray in the near future will be one of the past. But communicable disease will forever be present. So maybe we as a district need to start speaking about that for long-term sustainable practices and not just masks.
Thank you. Aaron, how do you feel about students and staff wearing masks?
I love this topic. Every day at work, I deal with clients that come in and are unhappy about wearing a mask. It comes down to a public health concern versus personal freedom. And one thing that I really wish that I could ask the current school board is, when they had the mental health crossroads come in and speak, why aren't they having the medical professionals, the hospitals coming in to speak? That's you can go on the internet and you can find all kinds of information. You can find things for the mask, against the mask, and if it's on the internet, it's got to be true, right? Why aren't they bringing in the professionals that are going to be treating? If your child ends up getting COVID and has to go to the hospital and it's restricted for family to come in and see them, how is that going to affect that child? How's that going to affect that family member? I've had 3 of my patients that have passed away from COVID, and I was able to talk to them over their cell phone. I'll tell you, it's a nasty thing. So how do you decide personal or public health and personal freedom? How do you decide that topic? And personally, my stance on it, my kids, I have them wear their masks. I believe in the science. Everybody's arguing about this stuff. It's about keeping our kids safe. It's not about if the masks work, the masks don't work. We need to make sure that we're keeping our kids safe. I think that it is a personal family problem. Some people do have family members that have compromised immune systems. Some people, their kids can go out and eat chicken feces and all kinds of weird stuff out there. I remember growing up drinking out of the water hose, and I turned out fine. Wow, that's questionable. And so I think when it comes to the masks, I think that it should be up to the parents to decide. And as far as mask mandates, it's the Board of Education. It's not the Board of Health. The Board of Health is the one that should come up with any kind of mandates. And when it comes to talking about the COVID things, if the governor can get online and talk for an hour every single day at a news conference, I'm sure he's got more important things to do than the school board. If the president can get on and talk about what's going on with the status of COVID, I'm sure he's got more important things to talk about. I think that we need to be need to increase the communication on what's going on with COVID. But ultimately, I think that's up to the parents on that.
Thank you, Aaron. Chuck, you're up for the last question. What is your understanding and definition of critical race theory? And are you for or against it being taught in the schools?
Okay, my definition of the CRT is basically that it causes a divide, and it does not need to be taught in the schools. I'm sorry, I'm not for it. Okay, from the research I've done, this is taught on a college level. Okay, it needs to stay that way. Okay, this is basically a race-based curriculum, that does not need to be taught to our children, of pretty much of any age. And I'm sorry, I am opposed to it, and I can't support this.
Thank you, Chuck. Krista, you're up next. What's your understanding and definition of critical race theory? Are you for or against it being taught in our schools?
Critical race theory is a small portion of the body of work that focuses on diversity, equity, and inclusion theory. It should be used to create critical conversations in adult academic settings in which DEI is the focus. My master's degree focused on DEI initiatives in the workplace. CRT was a difficult topic for us in an academic setting to discuss. Now, this theory can be leveraged to identify inequity and inequality, maybe in a legal debate or an adult professional work setting, and our schools are neither. As an isolated theory and approach to encouraging diversity, equity, and inclusion conversations, CRT should not be in our classrooms. It is a high-level theory which requires years of knowledge and understanding and pre-context before discussing. The educator in me asks, what could be in our classrooms which supports our children's ability to develop skills which are needed to combat inequity or inequality? As is true in most situations, early education builds mastery. I want our schools to focus on building programs and ideas around a future we've not yet realized. I want our children to be prepared for life when they graduate. This requires commitment from our Board of Education, superintendent, teachers, and community to explore other avenues to create learning environments which support all of our students and the rich diversity of our cities. I am currently working in emails and phone calls with the Ohio Department of Education to better understand our social-emotional standards. They were introduced in June of 2019. These are optional standards our district and families could build upon to create a focus of universal skills that support self-awareness, self-management, social awareness, relationship skills, and decision-making. These are concepts and skills that make all of us better communicators, critical thinkers, and collaborative partners in any conversation. These are the skills that I support and think that that will focus our efforts on an equitable and equal society.
Thank you, Krista. Karen, what's your understanding and definition of critical race theory, and should it be taught in our schools?
I love CRT. It was part of my master's program at Kent State for studying victimology. I study it still. I mean, I think I've got at least 7 books at home right now from Gene Stefancic and some of the other creators of it. I love it. It's very interesting to read. Should it be taught in our school system? Absolutely not. It was based out of the 1970s from activists and radical feminism. It was a graduate level legal course on the jurisprudence of what was going on in society. This is something that is going to cause a lot of controversy, as it does. Should it be taught at this level? Absolutely not. I do think that the kids and the families should be talking about ethnical diversities, about cultural diversities. That's one of the great things about living in this area. And when they do get to college, that's going to be one of the things they're going to have to do. You have to take a course in that. As far as this being taught, why would you teach a graduate level legal course at this level? Why would you teach something that's so controversial that's not going to help them in their education in the sciences and the maths? It could help them in socializing, but not this course, not this theory. Talk about what it is to be a good steward of your community and to get along with other people. But to teach this course in our school system, absolutely not.
Thank you, Aaron. Stacy. What's your understanding and definition of critical race theory, and are you for or against it being taught in our school system?
I oppose critical race theory being taught in the schools based on my understanding that it is an ideology that stems from Marxism and divides people. It teaches the kids to judge others by their differences. The schools are here to teach kids to be fair to everybody.
Thank you. Okay, as I said in the beginning, I do have a written document from Bill Boxer, who was not able to be here. And I remind you that the only questions that any of the candidates saw specifically was about critical race theory and masks. Everything else, the questions they didn't know, but I did give them general categories. So Mr. Boxer says, strengths and weaknesses of the district. I think one of the biggest strengths we have in the district right now is the state of our buildings. Thanks to the capital plan replacement of so many of the school buildings, we're in a much better position to be able to help the kids achieve success in a 21st century learning environment. That's not to say this is a perfect situation, as we will have buildings that need repair, but we're so much better off than we were years ago. I think we still have some exceptional teachers in our district. I've met with many of those wonderful teachers through the interaction with my kids. They are truly one of the greatest strengths we have, and we need to find ways to support them and what they are doing to educate our kids. The biggest weakness I see is that the district hasn't always been the best at communicating with parents. Several times it has been difficult to get answers to questions in a timely manner. That's not to say that you don't always get the answer, but it can be difficult to get it when you need it. I think we can also get better as engaging the community. We need to be better at educating the community about what we are doing in the district, what we need the community to help us with. We need to educate the community about things like how the district is financed, and make sure that people know how that money is being collected and spent. In terms of finances and levies, one of the most important things I think is we need to address the long-term financial stability of the district. This is going to be one of the biggest and most difficult areas to address due to its complexity and depth. We need to make sure that the entire community understands how the district is currently funded. The community needs to have an opportunity to learn about the different types of levies that fund the system and how that money is spent to support the district. We also need to put in place the appropriate plans and support structure that will make the investment we make today are taken care of and supported for years to come. Why did you want to run for the board? As a product of the district, a homeowner, and a father of 2 kids in this district, I want to help the district succeed. I feel that as a member of the community, it is my responsibility to serve in a capacity that gives back to the community based on my talents and knowledge. As I hear other parents discussing the confusion or community members who are lacking information on our finances, I feel that I can help by listening to them and addressing their concerns. I want to be part of all the kids' success and help develop policies and programs that support them in life. State grading for the school system. The state's accountability system for schools keeps changing, so it is hard to address the performance of our district. My understanding is that many factors in the new grading system can cause scores across the state to go down and are being addressed by the Ohio Department of Education. I think it is important for us to be able to measure the success or failure of a district in relation to our kids' successes, but we cannot do that until we have a solid line of data that isn't constantly moving. Personnel and staffing. I truly believe that we have some of the best teachers out there, and they are doing fantastic things. But to make sure our kids have the best chances of success, we must make sure that with students at home, and they need to be involved in children's education. We need to make sure that the administration is supporting the efforts of our teachers and listening to their advice when making decisions. The administration, board, parents, and the community need to work in partnership to help our kids succeed. The role of the school board. The number one role of the Willoughby Eastlake Board of Education is to impartially look at the kids in each of our district. We do this by making sure that the system has a clear vision that focuses on students and works with the community in our decision making. The board will hire and manage a superintendent that will work with the teachers, students, and community in setting instructional standards that will encourage a superior learning environment. We monitor progress of long and short-term goals as it relates to the district and the financial health of our system. We advocate for the families and children of our district at both the local and state levels. We also promote the achievement of our students and find ways to support them in their endeavors. Campaign funding. I'm funding my entire campaign on my own. I do not plan on doing any kind of fundraising or anything of that sort. Do you favor or oppose mandatory masking of students in the school, and why? This must be one of the hardest questions we have to answer because of the sheer divisions in our community over this issue. We are all tired of this pandemic and what it has done to our economy, community, and lives. I can only promise that if I'm elected to the school board, I will always listen to every side of an issue before deciding on a policy. My personal options will not be a factor when I consider how to respond to an issue. Also, I plan to always err on the side of keeping our kids safe and giving them the best environment that I can so that they can succeed. We have heard from the CDC, Lake County Health Department, and so many other science-based groups that masks will help stop the spread of COVID. A mask may not necessarily keep me from getting it, but it may help me from giving it to someone else. I personally prefer the idea of masks being worn in the schools and to keep the kids safe. It is my option, our responsibility to do what is necessary to help at least of us. And if that means we wear masks to protect them, others, I think we should do it. What is your understanding of critical race theory, and why are you in favor or opposed to it? I believe the school board and the superintendent have stated that they are teaching CRT in our schools, and there's no plan on doing so. They're not teaching, did I say that? They're not teaching CRT in our schools, and there's no plan on doing it in the future. As I understand it, critical race theory is something in study with a graduate level work in law school, and I support working to make sure that all students feel welcome in our schools and that they are represented in our teaching of history. So just to put that in perspective, we asked 13 questions. They each got 2 minutes to talk about that, so that was 26 minutes. I read that pretty fast. But I think to be fair, it was good to get Mr. Boxler's opinion. Okay, we're down to the last. You have 2 minutes to tell us anything you want. And Krista is first.
Well, only 2 minutes. Let me tell you a story. Man naked, no, I'm joking. Wasn't prepared for this. I don't like talking about myself. And I think that's what I need you to know. I seek nothing out of this personally. I am not like other candidates who have recently sat on the board, who have sought political positions out of working on the board. That's what happens. People run for the board, they get their name out there, and they pivot to really what their true purpose was. That's a political position. I have zero interest in politics. I am 100% laser sight focused on our children and our community. I am a homeowner who wants to stay here. I'll be honest. If we reduce services, my 6-year-old cannot walk himself home from school. He cannot walk himself to school. I need a strong district to support my children because I only have 18 years in which to support their ability to thrive for their 100. And I need a strong district to do that. Not only for my children, but for the community of learners, as well as the community around us. And this includes not only parents and families, but the wonderful community partnerships I have with those that don't have children in the school. They benefit from strong services. And I want you to know that I'm here just to donate my time, potentially my expertise in education and perspective to benefit the whole. Ultimately, we lose on the school board. I will give up many nights and days and time away from my family for the benefit of the community. And my family and I are willing to do that because we care about Willoughby Eastlake, and we want to stay here and we want to grow here. And I appreciate your consideration and time, and I really do wish everybody the best in voting and making these tough decisions.
Thank you, Krista. Aaron, you're up next. What do you want to say for a summary?
I like long walks on the beach. No, I'm just kidding. I'll tell you what, I was kind of reserved about coming and doing this. I talk in front of people often and things like that. But I was a little reserved because I felt like I'm going to have to be on the defensive the whole time. And I like how you said this is more of a job interview and things like that. I'll tell you what, I'm a parent. I've got the 3 kids in school. And I definitely am voting for you two for sure. Nothing against you. I'm definitely voting for you two. Because there's 3, maybe now 4, because I'm going to mess his name up, Mr. Maher is Merhar.
We appointed, not voted.
Okay. You know what? It's not about me. I'm plenty busy, but I'll tell you what. I care about my kids, and I care about the kids in this district. That's why I volunteered to be a Little League coach. I think that currently, I think this past year, the pandemic, how things have went down, I think that we failed the students. I think that talking to the teachers, I think that we have failed the staff and the teachers, and that can't happen. Whether you vote for me or not, whether you vote for any of the candidates that are up here right now or not, you got to think of one thing. You've got to think of the students. They're the most important thing. I could sit up here and sing all kinds of songs with lyrics about, the kids are our future and stuff, but then you definitely wouldn't vote. So I just want to thank you all for your time. I want to thank you all for your support. I hope that you'll stick around and talk with some of us and ask us more. 2 minutes isn't enough to really tell you what we think. We come up here and we have to give an answer really quick. We stumble a little bit. Well, not Krista. She was on her game. We stumble on our words. That's not really a great opportunity for us to tell you what we can do or what to do in the school board. So I hope you all stick around and talk with us some more.
Thank you, Aaron. Stacy, you're up for 2 minutes of telling us what you want us to know.
As Krista and the others said, I have nothing personally or politically to gain out of doing this. I am doing this for the kids. I am a parent, unlike any of the other board members who don't have children that go in the district. I have a vested interest in the positive educational outcomes and opportunities because the children in my house represent the graduation years 2034. Yes, that's right, 2034. 2031 and 2023. So I am in this for the long haul. None of the members on the board have children. This is a problem. I care about the quality of education for all students and would love to be a part of the district's future. I grew up in this community. I've lived here for 36 years. I'm running because I believe that in-person learning is the best for the children. I'm also trying to implement some diversity among the board members. We must keep students first, provide quality education, and maximize time on task in the classroom. I thank you everybody for your support. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Stacy. And Chuck has the last word.
I'm the last one.
No, I have the last word. But you
Oh,
have the
well, yeah,
last
you
word.
know.
Okay, I'd like to thank everybody for being here today. There's several issues that, that I couldn't discuss today, so hopefully you would, stay and talk with me a little bit afterwards. Okay, I'm not a politician. I don't claim to be one. I never have. I never will. Okay, that I did forget to put in my bio that I do have nieces and nephews in the Willoughby Eastlake School District. I'm sorry about that. The only thing I can do is try to, be a voice to the parents, the students, and the teachers. Okay, they need a hand. Need a hand in anything that, they would be able to come to me directly. I'm not a yes man. Okay, like I said, I'm going to look at all the issues and look at the facts. Okay, and make a determination on what would need to be done. As the other candidates, yes, they do have children, and good luck to them as well in the campaign. But I would definitely stand up and try to do the right thing. Thanks.
Thank you, Chuck. I'd be remiss if I didn't thank my team. Linda Gojak, teacher and trainer, called me one day out of the blue, had no idea who she was, wanted to raise her hand at the end. Thank you, Linda. I know, it's because you're a little sister, but still, you called me. I want to thank Deb Mullen, the manager of the library, and Travis Fortney, who set up our electronic system that Deb's trying to figure out. Some of it's cut off, huh? Oh, well. Okay, that was great. I think we have one of the best library systems in the county, for sure, if not more in the state. They're flexible, they're responsive, and they deserve your support. And then my director of research, Maureen Gregory, she's from the heart of Willoughby also. I tagged her and pulled her onto that thing, how many years ago? 15?
Yeah,
15 years ago, and she hasn't let go yet. So thank you, Maureen, for all the work that you did. Certainly it's appreciated. And the Willoughby Senior Center, the City of Willoughby, and Dave Sarosi, who was here in the beginning, but left. He's from the Parks and Recreation Department. They went and did a great job and gave us everything we need. So I want everybody, you've all raised your hands. You said, I'm going to be here on a Saturday morning. I'm going to listen. I'm going to hear. I'm going to ask. Thank you for coming. And certainly the candidates, thank you. And the best of luck to all of you. So thank you. Please eat some donuts, because Maureen doesn't want to take 300 donuts home. Wrap them up in a napkin and eat 40 of them for home.